Good evening. This is the September 27th, 2023 meeting of the Moscow Planning and Zoning Commission. Welcome, everybody. Nice to have a full crew here. First item on the agenda is approval of the September 13th minutes. Do we have any additions, corrections, deletions?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Dennis moved to approve.
Second.
And Victoria second. And we'll do roll call. Start with you, Scott.
Aye.
Joy? Dennis, I'm going to abstain since I wasn't
Aye.
here.
Aye.
And, okay, me approved. Next item on the agenda is the public comment period. Anybody would like to come up and address the commission for or with issues that are not before the commission this evening? We'd love to hear from you. Looks like we don't have any takers tonight. Okay. So the next item is our public hearing, a proposal for preliminary subdivision plat for property generally located at the northeast corner of Highway 95 and Pintail Lane and legally described as Lot 12 and Lot 13, Block 3 of the Quail Run addition to the city of Moscow. So, Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. So before you tonight, we have a replat of two lots, lots 12 and 13, Block 3 of the Quail Run addition. Subject properties in total 2.08 acres in size. Preliminary plats proposed to create 7 lots ranging from 4,791 square feet to 1.27 acres in size. This is the subject property highlighted in red in the center of your screen. You can see Pintail Lane adjacent to the property here, heads due southeast and then heads to the east. Fire Station 3 is located directly to the south as well. This is US 95. Quail Run Drive tees off of Pintail Lane, heads due east. So you have 2 family dwellings on the west side of Pintail transitioning into single family located down here, and then primarily single family residential as you head to the east there. Just a closer view of the property. You can see there's a shared access off of the adjacent lot to the southeast located here. There's currently an access easement for the benefit of this property. This is a topography map. You can see each one of those lines represents a 1 foot change in elevation. So you can see there's certain areas which are extremely steep on the property. There is a flattened out area in the middle of the property here though. Taking a look at the comprehensive plan land use designation for the area, it's currently designated as auto urban residential, which is the yellow shade. Across US 95 to the west is auto urban commercial. That's the magenta color there. So taking a look at what that says in the comp plan, predominantly single family detached homes on lots from 7,000 to 11,000 square feet in size, a little more isolated from surrounding usage, may require residents to rely more on automobile transportation. Includes areas that are generally anticipated to be developed for low to moderate density residential uses, 3 to 6 units per acre. Could include a mixture of detached single family, twin home, and townhome residential dwellings. And then it points to the appropriate zones, R1, R2, or R3 for the designation. So that brings us to the zoning configuration of the area. This property is zoned R3 as well as primarily all the properties. So Fire Station 3, as well as properties, the duplex properties down here on the west side of Pintail Lane. And then as you transition to the R2 designation, which is essentially just allows single family to the east. Across 95 to the west, there's motor business as well as forestry. So what the zoning code says about the R3 zone, it's an increase of the density allowed by the R2 zone by permitting different types of housing construction, appropriate where activity levels are moderate, terrain permits construction of somewhat larger structures, and where public systems and neighborhood facilities can accommodate a greater intensity of land uses, of course guided by the comp plan. And then within the R3 zone, it allows single family, 2 family, twin homes, townhouses, as well as some urban agriculture, so market community gardens, group small childcare facilities, and public parks and recreation facilities. So that brings us to the proposed preliminary plat. So there's 6 twin home lots. Essentially, you would see 3 duplexes And there's a dividing line between the common wall, and essentially each one of those allows for individual sale of either side. So those range from 4,791 square feet to 10,687 square feet in size for the lot. Minimum lot size within R3 for twin homes is 3,250 square feet, and the minimum lot width is 30 feet. There is one standard lot as well, and that's 1.27 acres in size. The minimum lot size for R3 for just regular lots is 6,000 square feet, and the minimum lot width is 60 feet. So that brings us to the proposed plat. You can see these are the twin home lots located here, 6 of those. And then the remainder would be just the standard R3 lot on the north and to the west. Proposed to use the existing access off of the current driveway located here. And there'd be a common drive which would provide access to the dwellings which are anticipated to be located in this area here. There's a fire truck turnaround, so a hammerhead configuration there. Looking at utilities in the area, water services are currently extended to the property from Pintail Lane. We have our 2012 comprehensive water system plan. So the existing system has adequate potable and fire flows to serve. And this has been modeled by HDR, who is our consultant. And so they model every subdivision that we hear in order to determine whether there's adequate potable and fire flows. And they've determined that it's adequate. Sanitary and storm sewer, there's mains currently exist within Pintail. As well as our 2011 comprehensive sewer system plan indicates that the existing system is adequate to serve the additional flow. And then, of course, our stormwater runoff control standards apply, which the stormwater needs to be detained at the pre-development rate. And so that would apply to this as well. Parkland dedication has already been satisfied. So this is previously platted. It's part of the Quail Run addition. And so no further dedications required. So with that, staff recommends that the commission conduct a public hearing and upon consideration of testimony presented, recommend approval of the proposed preliminary plat with no conditions. And then in accordance with the commission's decision on the preliminary plat, direct staff to prepare the RCS document. I'd certainly try to answer any questions you had.
So any questions for Mike? I have a couple. Could you go back? Yeah, that one. So the lines coming down do the lots extend all the way down to Pintail Lane?
They do. Every lot's required to have frontage on a public street right away. So yeah, these would be the long kind of skinny lots that would represent twin home lots. And then there'd be an access easement. And that's what you see with the crosshatched line there going through the property, which would allow for the benefit of essentially all those properties for a cross-access vehicular easement.
And the part that is adjacent to Pintail Lane, it's fairly steep terrain there, isn't it?
It is. I believe that this is intended to be, this is the stormwater detention facilities here. So
Okay.
There will be a shelf here where there'll be a small swale to detain the stormwater. But yeah, fairly steep at the street level here.
Okay. My other question is the engineers recommended that there be a study. Let me get over to it here. I'm sorry, I just need to work through. It said, as a result, we recommend that the applicant request a model analysis of the city's current water infrastructure's ability to serve domestic and fire flow at the subdivision. Shouldn't we be adding that in as a condition of any approvals?
They've had that modeled, and so they certainly can serve that at pretty much at the site. And so it just depends on the elevation of the future structures of the dwellings that they construct. It all depends on the elevation and whether or not they'll have enough pressure at the structure itself. And so we don't know that until they actually come in and request building permits. But at the property itself, they have adequate flow capabilities to serve it.
So if there's an issue, is this something then in any permitting that would be revisited?
Yeah, certainly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this can get satisfied, their recommendation can get satisfied even though we don't have it in our approval document?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Mike?
I had one more.
Yeah, Joel?
Mike, even the larger picture that you showed earlier, I think basically shows one access to the neighborhood. Describe the access. Are there?
Just the entire neighborhood in
Yeah,
general?
right.
You have access off of 95 and Pintail Lane, and then you have access on Polk Street a little further off into the distance here. And so there's two primary points of access. Quail Run serves as more of the collector street for the adjacent neighborhood. Pintail dead ends in a cul-de-sac here. Then you have Franklin, Gamble's Lane, some of the other subdivision that end essentially dead end in cul-de-sacs, or the street stubs to the adjacent property to the north. There's a large vacant field further just out of your screen to the north there.
And there's no access down to Rodeo.
No access from this general area, this subdivision down to Rodeo. No, you would have to go out on Polk, down to Rodeo, and then back out to 95 again.
Any other questions for Mike? Okay, I guess that's it. Thank you, Mike. So with that, we will open the public hearing, and first we'd like to hear from the applicant.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. My name is Nuri Nimmer, and I'm with Hodge and Associates, located at 405 South Washington Street here in Moscow. Mike, first I want to thank you for your thorough explanation on the subject matter. And unless there are any other questions, I really don't have anything else to add to it at this point in time.
Any questions? Okay, short and sweet. Thank you. That's great. Thanks very much. And next, we'd like to hear from anybody that is in support of the project or of a general nature. And seeing no one, anybody that would like to speak in opposition of the project? Please come up to the podium and state your name and your address. And if you'd keep your remarks to about 3 minutes, we'd appreciate it.
My name is Caleb Fisher, and I'm 202 Pintail Lane. I am the adjacent driveway that this entire community is going to be using to access their properties. The thing that I see with this is I think that the access easement that is currently in place was never intended for a possible 12 to 13 families to support. So I would think that there either needs to be an adjustment or a new agreement in place before something like this could be approved. So I am currently, as far as to my knowledge, I own clear to the road at Pintail Lane, all the way down the hill. And I do know that I believe there is easements, even though I have not been presented with any info from any of the parties that are involved in building this. I'm a new owner of this property. I've had 0 people reach out to me. I have know nothing about this besides from the neighbors and the public notice hearing sign that was placed in the dirt. So I just feel that if they're going to move possibly 13 families worth of vehicles that are all going to access through my driveway, that there needs to be something adjusted or changed to account for that.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Mike, a question on that. There's a fairly extensive easement agreement that was in the package. Is that something that is carved in stone, or can that be renegotiated at some point? Okay.
Would need to renegotiate that. I'm sure that all parties would need to agree on some type of renegotiation, but, you know, this property was originally platted, I believe, in 94, 95, and it was zoned R3. And so R3 zone allows for multiple structures on a single piece of property. So presumably, every 6,000 square feet, you could have a single family dwelling. Property's 2 acres in size, so you could go figure out how many dwellings you could actually place on the property, which would be substantial. No, certainly you wouldn't be able to fit that many on the property, but that's just what you're legally allowed to do. And so, you know, nothing's changing there. This is really just a mechanism to divide the property, allow home ownership, and it's 7 dwellings essentially would be allowed. So it'd be 7 families for the number of lots that are here.
So they're already divided, right? So like there would actually be a structure over 2 of those lots. Is that how I understand it? These are twin homes, right?
These are twin, yeah, these would be
7.
proposed to be twin homes. So essentially you would draw, you know, say it's a square for the building footprint. It would cross over each common lot line there.
Okay.
And so each individual lot would have one side of essentially a duplex is what it would look like.
Yeah.
Michael, would you point out I lost track of where your property is.
I believe it's the shared driveway, right? Correct? Okay.
Like where the 10 is where your home is?
No, my
No.
home would be.
Oh, up there.
Yeah,
It's
back.
Yeah.
Up the hill.
Got it.
You go back, you slide a picture of the shared access driveway.
You're right there.
Oh, so you're in that triangular
Yeah.
piece of property. I get it. Thanks. I appreciate that.
And I appreciate your comments. The easement agreement that's in here is pretty well established, but I would certainly encourage you to contact the owner and the developer to discuss the issue with them. I don't think it's something that can be considered by us tonight, but certainly would encourage you to do that. So, okay, moving on. Anybody else that would like to speak in opposition?
Hi, my name's Megan Lamb. I live at 214 Pintail. And if you want to just go back to that same spot that we were at before.
Mike.
I just live on that corner spot at the 10. So right at that corner of Pintail and, yep, right there. So that's where I'm at. So my main concern is basically the access point would have to be widened into what essentially is our, landscaped hill up to our house. I don't know if you guys have a zoomed in version of that exact picture there. Yeah, so right at the corner of Pintail up to our home, that very corner there is a pretty steep hill up to our house. And we were told at the last meeting, that road would have to be widened to be paved. And we're just concerned about the maintenance that would be required for us through that easement. And if we need to take other avenues to figure out what that would entail, that's fine. We can do that. But it's just a question I have at this point, who's going to be responsible for the maintenance of that road? Because right now it supports myself and my partner and Caleb and his partner. So 4 people driving up and down that road. And so if that's going to open up access to a significantly higher quantity number of people, and it's going to be paved, who's going to be responsible for the maintenance? We were told that our property line would be clearly established at this point, so we could at least see how much more, how widened that would become, if a retaining wall would be established, what that would look like for our property. Because as you can see, if you, make that left up, that's our driveway and it's all gravel. So you turn onto Pintail and then you go up. It's a pretty steep gravel road and then it turns right into our driveway. So our driveway is about roughly 10 feet off of that gravel road. So it's going to affect us pretty significantly with 6 homes being built. So I'm concerned about what maintenance is going to look like, what the widening of that road is going to do to our landscaping on that corner, and what it's going to do to our driveway as well, because that's our only access to our home. So
Okay.
What, was there a neighborhood meeting regarding that?
it was right about where the L is in that Pintail Lane is where that meeting took place. Just in the road. So they said that they would come and rezone our property to kind of establish where our plot line was, to show us how wide that road would be, where it would be paved, how far they would be cutting into the hill, and exactly how far down Pintail Lane to the end of our lot that property was established, but no one has come by to do that yet.
Okay, thank you. I will have some questions for the applicant here in just a minute. So thank you very much. I
thank you very
appreciate
much.
that. Anybody else that would like to address? Yes, please.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Eric Seaman. I live at 1315 Franklin Road, and that's the property just south of Mr. Fisher's. So it's the one that has the little corner that abuts that one, correct? Yes, that's my property. Yeah, I would just second what Caleb said, and I think just to elaborate on, I was a little surprised at the number of units that would be developed. And I know that in the meeting that we had, there were a number of people that expressed concern about the traffic of what would the load be on Pintail and also exiting out onto 95. I know there were a lot of people that expressed concern about it's already a dangerous intersection, that people are speeding up to go out of town. There's somewhat of a blind spot right there when you're looking south. There's a turn lane there, and as people turn, it's hard to see south. So I'm envisioning another 12 families with, a number of cars all coming from that single driveway back out onto Pintail. And they're naturally, I would expect them to use 95 as their way to get into town. I would expect there to be some type of traffic study that would be done to assess that. The other thing that I was concerned with is there is a fire station right there. And if there is a huge backup, that could be a concern with regards to the fire truck getting out or some congestion. So that would be my biggest concern. And I personally would like to see something done to assess or validate that from a traffic perspective, that this area could actually handle that many new families and that amount of traffic. And thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Anybody else would like to, the applicant, if you would like to come up and have any final comments, and then I do have a question.
I think a couple of the questions that were raised, I just want to provide a little bit of clarification on those. The number of families that would be added to this, we'd be actually adding 5 we would be looking at a total of 7 on the applicant's property, and then we've got access for 2 others. And so a total of 9 families would be using that access. And I guess the other item, just for clarification, within that access, it is currently a gravel road for which the slope of the neighboring property extends into that access, into that easement area. And so that paved area for the project would be 20 feet wide, and there would have to be some regrading done onto that neighboring property, or by way of more than likely a retaining wall.
So there would, and would the widening tend to be going more toward the north then? On,
Well, that existing gravel driveway, I want to say is maybe 12 feet wide. And so there's a portion of maybe 4 feet that's on kind of the southeast side of that. And then the remainder is on the northwest side of that.
but it, and I have to confess that I haven't looked at the property lines with respect to the easement, but the widening wouldn't occur inside the property line for the adjacent.
No, there would be no widening in any of those properties
And
that's already defined.
any grading that would be done, you would end up taking care of by retaining wall or whatever to preserve the. Okay. Anybody else have any other questions?
Sense of people in Quail Run, do they go out the other way, or would you say a predominant number of Quail Run people go to 95? Do you have any idea about that?
Not living in the neighborhood, I really don't know specifically what sort of split we see. Jordan.
I would say
Okay.
it seems, it seems like it should be. I don't happen to drive 95 except when I'm racing out of town, so I don't see it a lot. But one would think that there must be, how many houses? There must be 50, 60 houses in Quail Run that are kind of thinking about heading toward 95, don't you think? Yeah, okay. I guess my point is, and I do appreciate, I'm certainly hoping that in your engineering work that you're looking carefully at that roadway for these 2 or 3 unusually shaped lots, but it seems like a fairly small number of additions to what is rather a large, a nice size subdivision as it is. I mean, I'm trying to just think of how a change in patterns or a change in traffic, and it doesn't seem like there's enough new houses to be a major impact, given the 200 houses that are there, though clearly that the new little road could be difficult to get out on an occasional morning, couldn't it, out of your roadway? Do you find that an issue ever in the morning?
Yeah. Traffic and traffic coming from Northern Philly.
There's no stop sign on the corner between Vale and Impale, so people feel right around.
Oh, sorry, we'll give you an opportunity to wrap up. So any final comments that you would?
No, nothing
Okay,
further.
all right, very good. Thank you. With that, we'll.
Sorry,
Did you have?
I'm good.
So we'll close the public hearing with that and proceed with the discussion here on the commission. So one thing that I guess I'm wondering about, there would have been a traffic study done with the original development, wasn't there?
I would assume so. I mean, this is ITD right away, right, for US 95. And so ITD is going to require any type of traffic impact study, and they hadn't required one. I mean, typically it's a much larger subdivision that you require a traffic impact study, because it's not necessarily just determining the volumes on the roadway. It's what improvements for intersections. And so the improvement on this intersection, coming out of there would be a traffic light. They have spacing on traffic lights where they don't allow them for a certain distance. And so, we don't have one on Rodeo, which is a much busier intersection than this. And so it doesn't essentially, they're not going to allow or require a traffic light at this intersection until maybe some point in the future where it does get that busy, but if ever, essentially.
I guess part of what I'm wondering is that when Quail Run was developed, there must have been a traffic study done that encompasses the bulk of that area.
I would assume so. I mean, it happened in the 90s, so I wasn't here. And
We
so I'm
don't
not
have
exactly sure if they required traffic studies back then.
My memory's not that good.
There's something in here that
Well, it
said-
was, I'm going to say it's before I came to P and Z, yes. 2 years before.
But I mean, IT traffic manual essentially states that there should be 10 trips for every single family dwelling. And so you could assume that 7 dwellings on that property would be 70 average daily trips increase. Just which direction they would go after they ended up exiting.
It already counted for 2 though, right? Because those were 2 lots to begin with, so it's only 50.
Sure,
additional.
yeah.
So Victoria, you had
Well,
something?
there's something in here, I can't find it now. It might be what Rich just said. That said, when they developed the area, they anticipated this being developed and took that into account and that the traffic was adequate. I'm not sure if it was 2 or 9 that they were thinking about, but there's something in here and I can't find it now.
So how would we like to proceed? We have any additional thoughts? Or are you ready to move?
I sympathize with everyone out there, right? But it just looks like it's a good fit. I mean, we have to grow up or we have to go out, we have to fill in. This is kind of filling in and growing out, and it fits the area. I don't think it's going to be a tremendous impact. It might be, like you said, coming down the driveway in the mornings, but we have to grow, and this is how you do it, unfortunately. And
I agree. And I think that some of the concerns, I think there's an opportunity to address that with the developer as they're moving forward. So would encourage on the easement, for example, on the widening and the impact of the properties. I think there's going to be opportunities for you to work. So I agree with Dennis. I mean, I think, this is how we move forward. And one of the big issues for us right now is having more dense housing, and this is one way to accomplish it. So I'm certainly in favor of moving forward with the project, but
I guess I'm convinced by the comments that you just made that the 6 units out of 200 or so is a small percentage change.
yeah, I don't think it's going to have as much of an impact. It certainly, can't say that it won't have any impact, but
And I certainly hope that the developer is looking out for impacts of the construction process on neighbors.
for sure.
It's a neighborly thing to do
Yes.
in Moscow.
For sure. Thank you. That's a good comment. I appreciate it. Well, so are we ready to move to approval? Do we have a motion to? So Dennis' motion, Rich's second. So Rich, we'll start with you. Roll call.
Aye.
Victoria?
Aye.
Nellis? Aye. Dennis?
Aye.
Joel? Aye. Cole? And John. Okay, so approved. Thank you very much. We appreciate everybody's comments and appreciate you spending the time with us to talk about the issues, and certainly encourage you to continue working with the developer on this. So thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. Okay, next item is reports. Joel, you're up. Oh, I'm sorry. RCS, I'm sorry. My apologies. I've not been doing this for a while. So we need a motion to, and second to approve or to direct staff to prepare the RCS. Okay, so Dennis and Joel second. Is that good? Okay, so Scott, we'll start with you.
Aye.
Joel, Dennis, aye. Nels?
Aye.
Aye.
Victoria, and okay, so you'll prepare the RCS. Thank you, Jennifer. I been remiss in my duties here. Just next time you just give me a big poke in the, okay, so try it again.
It's an easy one. Next transportation meeting will be at 4:00 in the second Thursday in the month, which is far enough away that I haven't seen the agenda.
Okay, great. That's makes it easy. So, okay, Mike, I understand we may have some revisions to the schedule coming up.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that. I'm going to be gone for the next meeting and then at a conference for the following meeting. So we were debating whether or not we could shift the meeting to the middle of the month.
So we just have one for October.
For October, yeah.
That certainly works for me, and actually it works better because I was going to be absent for the first meeting anyway. So yeah, I'm good. How about everybody else? 18th seemed to work.
What day would that be, Mike?
Say the 18th.
Wednesday, the 18th.
It impacts me.
You never know. Okay, so
Anything on my calendar?
so we'll cancel the 11th and the 25th and have a single meeting on the 18th then. 18th.
I do have a problem with that, but hopefully you'll have enough.
We'll have enough for, okay. Any public hearings in the works for that one, Mike, do you think?
I don't think they'll be ready for that one quite
Okay.
yet, but we do have a couple things in the works. So
Okay, well, hopefully, I mean, obviously, we don't want you to.
Quite a few meetings in a row.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're, you can be absent without any problem. So, okay, I did have one other question with respect to future meetings. We've been talking, well, two things. We've been talking about a joint meeting with council. Are we still thinking that we're going to do that?
yeah, still scheduled, I think, tentatively for the fall. I believe that the council was just waiting until after budget season.
Okay.
And so that's what I'd heard from administration, that they wanted to get past the budget and then could shift to looking at a joint meeting. So,
Okay.
yep, talked to him recently about that.
Super. And Gina, this is kind of for you. I'd like to get the water discussion back on the table. But when we talked last, there were some, I guess, issues that were still going on with PBAC. And so where do you think we stand with that?
They do have a new director, and I want to say he's in the saddle maybe 2 months. Does anybody know?
Yeah,
I think it's about 2 months. So it might be time to debut. You know, maybe it's time for him to make his rounds. So it's maybe not a bad idea. November-ish. I don't know. I think it would be worth an invitation for sure.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
take a look. Are you still the liaison with PBAC?
No, Sandra is now.
Sandra is now,
Mhm.
okay. So, all right, well, yeah, let's, it might be appropriate. I know last time we had you and Tyler with us for that,
Mhm.
but having the new PBAC director might be a nice way for us to
Agreed.
hear. So, yeah, let's, what's the best approach? Mike, is that somebody that you could contact and kind of
Sure.
see if there's an interest in doing that? And then if not, then we'll go to plan B and figure out something else. And we can let Sandra know too
Yeah.
that we're kind of pursuing
I
that.
will.
So, okay,
Is that going to
super.
be 1st November?
do it.
Because I don't know when Thanksgiving is.
Thanksgiving is on the 20th.
Yeah.
I can help it.
Well, we typically,
23rd.
yeah, 23rd, the 29th would be.
Yeah.
So we'd have an opportunity either the 8th or the 29th of November.
It is. Yeah.
Oh, it is. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right. So potentially the 8th. All right. Well, let's see. And if that's too soon, we'll move it to another time if that's going to be a schedule problem. So, okay. Anything else for the good of the order? Gina, Mike, Jennifer? Okay, well, thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned. And thank you again for